Hi, I'm Samantha, and welcome to my YouTube channel, and welcome to my very first video. If you find yourself here, you're probably Googling things like, why does my vagina hurt? Or what is vulvodynia? And that's what I'm here to talk with you about. I really felt like the feminine wellness space could use a regular voice, a regular face, just somebody who could be relatable. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, I don't know it all. I just know what I've been through and what I've experienced, and I feel like that's really valuable to share with everyone. So I want this to be a really casual, really safe space for people like us to connect with each other and just talk about and relate to our experiences, because I know that's really difficult to find in real life. Naturally, the first thing I want to share is my entire experience, even figuring out that I have vulvodynia and what I've been through over the years. And like I said, it's not going to be perfect. I actually recorded this video a couple days ago, but naturally the beginning intros like didn't upload for whatever reason. So here I am re-recording those. So my hair looks a little different. I did try to put the same shirt on, but either way, this is the intro into my whole experience and the reason for launching this channel, and I hope you enjoy it. So I'm just going to dive right into how I started this journey with vulvodynia. So it was literally right before COVID. It was February of 2020, and I had just started this brand new relationship. And, we were seeing each other and things became intimate. And probably after the second time we slept together, I noticed something was really wrong. And I said to myself, I was like, holy shit. Like, did I just get an STD from this guy? But we use protection. So I was like, I mean, I know it's possible, but I was like, oh my God, like I took the precautions. Like, what's going on? Like, I need to go see the gynecologist. So I booked my normal gynecologist, was obviously nervous of what was going on, but didn't have any clue what was actually about to happen with my life. And I go there and, they do the normal physical exam. They take a culture. They're like, we'll call you with your results. And they call me and they're like, hey, you're fine. Like, nothing's wrong. And I was like, excuse me? And they're like, yeah, your test results came back clear. Like, you don't have any STDs, like no yeast, no bacteria, nothing. Like, you're clean, you're great. And I was like, well, can you explain the pain that I'm feeling, like the symptoms that I'm having? Like, that really doesn't solve anything. And they're like, no, they're like, maybe it's just like the time of the month, like maybe your hormones are out of whack and, something is going on there. Like, why don't you just see how you feel in a couple weeks? And if you're still having an issue, call us back. So I call them back and I'm like, hey, nothing's getting better. Like, I'm not feeling well at all. And they're like, okay, well, nothing came back on the culture, but we will try a yeast medication. Like, maybe you did have a little bit and it just didn't come up on the culture. So we'll just give you like a little bit of medicine to take and see if that helps. So they gave me the regular like diflucan for yeast, and I think they even tried me on Metrogel like for like a bacteria infection. It was so long ago. I don't remember exactly what I tried in the specific order, but they gave me both of those like to solve like the really common stuff that women get all the time, like BV and yeast infections. And needless to say, none of it worked. So I kind of thought it was in my head. At that moment when none of the medicines worked, I didn't advocate for myself as much as I should have in that moment. But what I did do instead is I went to go see another gynecologist. I'm like, maybe they're just not knowledgeable. They're like gaslighting me. I don't know. I was like, let me just go get another opinion. That was like my gut instinct. I was like, let me talk to somebody else. So I go book another gynecologist and it was just the same exact thing, but they didn't even want to give me anything to try. They were like, you're literally fine. Your physical exam, like you look like you're in great condition. They were like, it's all in your head. I swear to God, those are the exact words they used. It's all in your head. So clearly from that point, I was like, okay, you're done. I'm not seeing you anymore. So from there, I proceeded to book like 5 more gynecologists. I'm not even exaggerating in the area. Like, I probably visited every single one for them all to tell me the same exact thing and that I was fine. I'm like, I am literally not fine. Like, I am in so much pain. My symptoms were this burning rawness, and it was worse when it was provoked or like touched, if I had to use a tampon or like if I had contact with like underwear or anything. But even if I was like laying down, freshly showered in bed with loose sweatpants, the burning was still there and the uncomfortable feeling was still there. I had pelvic cramping, just so many different things. I knew like my microbiome was not right. Like I just smell different. Like as a woman, you know when things are off. Like you know how you smell, you know how you feel. And I knew, of course, like deep down, I was like, this is not normal. So I took those feelings and I went back to the original gynecologist because I was just like kind of getting hopeless at that point. I thought I was going crazy. And I was like, hey, I went and saw like all these other people, and none of them think that anything is wrong. You guys were at least willing to prescribe me some medicine to give something to try to make me feel better, right? So they were like, all right, so we believe you. We do think that you're feeling something. You've gone all of these lengths to try to figure it out. Let's see what we could do from here. So from there, they pretty much tested me for every single STD known to man, like literally every single one. Blood tests, more cultures, all this stuff. Everything comes back negative. No answers from that. And from there, they finally say, okay, look, like we have a specialist. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I live in like the Philadelphia area. So it was a specialist in Philly specifically for vulvovaginal disorders. They're like, here's a referral, go see her and see what they can do because I think you're out of our scope of care, like our scope of knowledge. And I was just like, that I thought was my golden ticket. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to a specialist. Like, although I was still really scared that I even have to do that in the first place, I was like, here we go. Like, I'm going to get some goddamn answers. So I go book this appointment with the specialist. And by the time I get in the doors, by this time, I think about a year and a half has passed between me, going to the first gynecologist, thinking I had an STD, to where I'm at now. So I get in this woman's chair and she just kind of does the regular run of the mill stuff. She does the culture for yeast and bacteria, just I guess to rule out things, because it had been a little bit since I had been to the gynecologist and just in case anything else needed to be treated. So I wasn't mad at her for doing that. And before my visit, actually, I had to fill out this huge long questionnaire, basically just asking things about my sexual history, I guess my medical history, like all of this stuff. I guess that could contribute to the reason of how you wound up in the position you're in, or anything that can give a clue to what's actually going on. So I fill that out, gave it to her. We kind of review my history. We kind of go over how I got in her chair and all of the gynecologists that I've seen and how all this pain kind of came about. And she does a Q-tip test on me. And she just reviews, like, she pokes my vulva pretty much in different spots and sees, like, where my pain is or, like, what's going on. So she finishes the Q-tip test and is like, okay, so what we're going to try first is we're going to see if you have an allergy to something. So, for example, my laundry detergent or my bath soap. She's like, we're going to switch you to brands that have no dyes, nothing irritating, like All Free Clear, I think was the laundry detergent I had to switch to, or like a really mild Dove soap, just to make sure that what I was having wasn't a sudden reaction to a chemical in the products that I've been using all the time. So we tried that. I tried to detox of whatever I was using that apparently wasn't good for my skin, in addition to applying a steroid cream on the area that was irritated, just to kind of see if that would, fix the irritation. And I was like, oh, wow, never thought of that. Like, what a great idea. Do that. It didn't work, unfortunately. It actually wound up giving me a yeast infection. So I had the yeast infection on top of the already terrible, raw, burning pain that I was in. So you can imagine it was unbearable. And I had to go back and get yeast infection medicine. And we were like, okay, like that wasn't it. So based off of my history, I pretty much was tested for every single bacteria, STD, yeast, allergy that they could think of. She throws out the word Vulvodynia. And I was like, I Googled that in my tireless research, being up all night in pain, being like, why the fuck does my vagina hurt? And it didn't sound like something to me at the time that was accurate, because my pain it felt like an infection. It didn't feel just like a a nerve issue. And that was just me, like, I guess making an assumption, because it was true. It wound up being true. We'll get to that later, but only partially true. There was other parts to it. But like deep down, I knew like that wasn't like my only problem. And she got there by they call it, like, it's a diagnosis, which really it's not. Vulvodynia is just a term for chronic or vulvar pain, not even chronic, but we just use it in that way. So she just gave me that determination based off of a process of elimination. She's like, we literally can't find anything else that's wrong with you. This is what it's looking like. And the treatment is to take, it was a nerve medicine, so amitriptyline, orally. And they had like a cream you could apply, an ointment that you could get from a compounding pharmacy, with like gabapentin in there, like nerve pain relieving substances, to apply to the area and to take orally. And she was like, a lot of women see benefits with this. And I really am not a fan of taking medication, especially medicines that kind of alter you a little bit, not in like a drunk or like intoxication way, but like, I guess, an anxiety medicine or a nerve medicine that I don't know. It's just a weird thing with me. So I was not thrilled, needless to say, about that news. But I was so desperate at the time. I was like, okay, if this is what she thinks is going on, I'm going to give it a try. And let me tell you, I literally sobbed the entire way home, the whole way home, because I was terrified of this diagnosis that I did see it in Google. I was like, you know, the stuff about it that you read on the internet is scary. They're like, it's not curable. It'll go away on its own. But it's like, at that point, I'm almost 2 years in and nothing's improved. And I really felt more defeated leaving that appointment than when I went in. So now at this point, I'm on this amitriptyline, and as you can guess, it's not improving anything. I didn't feel a difference at all. And I know this is a popular medicine for women who have a nerve related issue. So, not to discourage anybody watching this, that it definitely is still an effective treatment option. It just did not work for me. So, I did wind up going back and saying, hey, like, this isn't working. And they're just pretty much like, give it more time. So I stayed on it, and eventually I just stopped taking it. I weaned off of it because you're not supposed to just cold turkey stop that stuff. But I just knew. I was like, this is really not like the whole problem, because I don't know, like, what is actually going on with me? Like, what is the root cause of my pain? Even if it is nerve pain, why did it start? Like, what is the actual root cause? So that was the big thing. And that was my problem in coming to terms with what was happening in my body and believing I could be cured, or believing in a treatment, something that would work. And mind you, like, in between like the doctor's appointments, I literally tried every single thing under the sun. And some of them did really help me. And I'll make like a whole other video going into like products that help me and stuff. There was like CBD, like lidocaine, like a whole bunch of stuff. Like, but we'll talk about that later. But just knowing like what the root cause is imperative to the treatment that you're going to receive. And I just felt so unsatisfied with all of these appointments, because the root of it was like, well, we don't know, it's a process of elimination, like this is what we do when we don't know what's going on, is prescribe nerve pain medicine. And I'm just like, I am not satisfied with this. This is not the end all be all. So I'm just continuing on my endless Google searches to find out what the hell is going on, because at this point I really just felt no further than I did when I first started this whole entire mess. So in my research, I finally found, I actually found them in stages. So the first thing that came up, and I don't know why I didn't think of doing this before, but the first support group I found was on something called stuffthatworks.com. And it's pretty much a website that hosts a bunch of chronic illnesses, where people can go on a discourse and talk about everything that they do that works for them, doesn't work for them, just venting, support, doctors, resources, all of that amazing stuff that clearly I needed at the time. So I go on there, go on the Vulvodynia section. There's really not a lot of information on there that I wasn't already presented with at my doctor's appointments. One of the main treatments they had on there was the nerve pain medicine, and I was just kind of getting a feel for, what people were experiencing and what they were saying on there and how it could relate to them. And unfortunately for us, there are so many variations of the type of pain we experience and why we're experiencing it. There were a lot of people I could relate to, but then they'd be so nuanced that it's like, okay, well, I actually don't feel like that, or I don't have that one problem. So are we suffering from the same thing? And it was just a big rabbit hole. So when I found that resource, I said to myself at this point, okay, like maybe there's other support groups out there or resources out there. And for other people, maybe it didn't take as long as like 2 or 3 years like me to have that thought, but it did. So I go on Reddit and I find the Vulvodynia subreddit where people are, you know, reaching out for support there. And that is where I find the doctor who actually told me like what exactly is going on with me. But before I found that doctor, I found another one, and she was good, don't get me wrong. And they were both located in Washington, D.C. So I go on there and I'm scrolling through the entire thread, like hours and hours, scrolling to the beginning, finding anything that I could relate to, or is there a cure? Did somebody fix themselves? Like, what is the answer? And I found this one person had posted about a doctor in Washington, D.C. Her name was Lucy Treen. And I went to go see her, and it was expensive. It was like a few $100s. It was like $400 or $500. And those appointments usually don't take insurance up front. In my experience, when you're seeing a specialist like that, you can submit like your expenses to your insurance company at their discretion if they want to cover whatever your visit entailed. But it's not like you give your Aetna insurance card up front and then get a bill later. It's kind of just like, hey, you got to pay in full up front and then take this bill and submit it to your insurance company and see what you can get covered, if anything at all, or maybe the whole thing. So I go see Dr. Treen, and it really was more of the same thing, except she did narrow down the type of vulvodynia I was experiencing. And she was right. It was a component, and still is to this day, a component of the pain I'm experiencing. She called it vestibulodynia. So there is a certain part of your vulva. It's like the tissue surrounding your vaginal opening. That's called your vestibule. And what happens in a lot of women is that they start experiencing pain there, or they were even born with pain there. And it's most noticeable when you're about to engage in sexual intercourse, or like using a tampon, like whenever it's provoked. There's two types. It could be unprovoked or provoked. So just provoked meaning that when somebody's touching it or something's rubbing against it, it's the most noticeable. In other women, they just kind of have constant pain, like the really bad, unbearable pain, by just kind of existing, which is extremely, extremely unfortunate. Luckily for me, I do have a constant pain, but it's really more of like just a hum of pain, like in the background, and like the really bad stuff happens when I'm touched. So with this new part of a diagnosis, Dr. Treen decides to put me on another nerve medication. It was called nortriptyline. I think it's a tricyclic antidepressant. It was a little bit different than amitriptyline. Unfortunately, it still really didn't work for me. So I reported back to her and I was like, hey, I'm not really seeing improvement. She then recommends something to me that is called a vestibulectomy. And what that is for women who are suffering with vestibulodynia. It is a surgery that removes the top layer of your vestibule, where the damaged nerve endings are, or the nerve endings that are sending the incorrect pain signals to your brain are, in an attempt to expose fresh nerve endings that don't send the pain signals to your brain anymore and therefore don't hurt anymore. So I was very on the fence about this decision. I really didn't think that even though I had come so far in this journey, that I had all of the answers that I needed to feel satisfied with making that big decision. Because obviously, with any surgery, there are a lot of risks, there are a lot of pros and cons. And I just didn't feel at that time that I was ready to make that decision. So I continued my search on Reddit just to get another second opinion, because I did have a new piece of information. I did have more of a specific diagnosis with the location of my pain that was new information to me. And it was a little encouraging, to be honest. So I was scrolling Reddit, and then I come across the Center of Vulvovaginal Disorders with Dr. Andrew Goldstein, who's located in New York and DC. And so I don't see Dr. Goldstein himself. I wind up seeing somebody, her name's Jill Kraft, Dr. Jill Kraft. And it takes a while to get in there as a new patient. I think it was like 6 months. So, guys, by this time, I'm in this thing for like 3 years, 3.5 years. And it's still only like 2022. Like, I've been going through this for a while. So, I make an appointment with her. Everybody's raving about her knowledge, her thoroughness, her bedside manner. And I am so, so excited to see this woman. I'm just like counting down the days every single day. And I'm just researching, like coming up with so many questions to ask her, because I just still have so much left to discover and like ask and find out what's going on with my body. So while I'm waiting to see Dr. Kraft, I'm still researching, and I come across this condition called hormonally mediated vestibulodynia. And I saw it and I was like, oh my God, like this is probably what the problem is. I was like, I think I might have found part of my answer. And this has never been, addressed with me before. And what hormonally mediated vestibulodynia is pain caused by prolonged birth control use, just due to, your hormones being detrimentally affected by the long-term use of birth control. That's not really discussed or studied, unfortunately. So I was on birth control from age 16, when I'm not even really hormonally matured at that time, until age 24. And when I started having this problem, probably like 6 months to a year in, I did intuitively stop my birth control, because I would just said to myself, I'm like, I am a relatively healthy young girl. At the time, I was 24, never had any detrimental medical experiences, always had blood work that was fine, got it routinely. It was really mind blowing that I was experiencing what I was experiencing, and just had, air balls for answers. I was like, I can't think of one thing, but my birth control did come up. So to find that connection from year one to like almost year 4, I was like, oh my God, I thought I found the answer to everything. So my appointment with Dr. Kraft finally approaches, and it was the same thing with her. She had an extensive, list of paperwork to fill out that goes into our sexual history, medical history, all of the important stuff to know before the appointment. And I get there, and because it was a little while ago, still at this time, I don't remember specifically the order in which she did everything, but I can tell you how thorough and how well she did everything. So basically, the appointment consisted of a part of a physical exam where she actually does go through step by step, ruling out things, testing things that I had never even heard of. She was just so thorough and so good. And then after the physical examination, based off of what she found, what she saw, what she heard, what she knows, we go into her office and we have a private one-on-one conversation about her findings and her opinions, and where we can go from there. So during the physical examination, she also did the Q-tip test. She did blood work. She did a culture. They use this test online. You can actually use it from home and try to interpret the results at home. It's called a microgen test. It tests for thousands and thousands of bacteria in your vaginal, microbiome, that a simple culture that just tests for bacterial vaginosis and yeast could never pick up on. So if women are struggling with some kind of, abnormal infection or just an environment that doesn't look healthy with a lot of healthy bacteria, that is such a key indicator of pointing out that discrepancy versus going to a normal gynecologist who just does the regular run of the mill culture. So there was that test that was performed on me. And I did wind up having abnormal bacteria, which we tried to treat. I feel like because of the health of my vulva, it's a continuing battle. It wasn't solved right then and there, but it was definitely a very helpful and insightful tool to know what's happening in my body and to continually be on top of treating it. In addition to that, she did confirm my hormonally mediated vestibulodynia. She saw right away all of the telltale signs that I'm experiencing that and where I'm having redness and irritation. She said it was around something called my Bartholin's glands that are responsible for producing lubrication. And it has improved, but I still struggle with it. But at the time, I really, really struggled with dryness and lubrication. And that was a direct impact of being on the birth control for so long. So she went through that component. She even did some kind of spray to rule out skin conditions. There's something called lichen sclerosis. I've never even heard of it before. She just covered every single base you could ever imagine, took all these findings, put me in the office, and was like, okay, like there's a lot of things we can do here. She put me on, first to address the hormonal issue. There's a compounded gel. It has testosterone and estrogen in it, and I had to apply it to myself twice a day for a long time. This is not an overnight fix, obviously. So for about 6 to 9 months, I had to use that gel every day. So I do that. She gets me some antibiotics because I did have some kind of bacterial imbalance. Even though it wasn't technically BV, it still was there and it was still contributing to my symptoms. So we treat that. And there still is, unfortunately for me, left over a nerve component to my pain. But I, again, sobbed all the way home. But at that point, I finally had the answers that I knew were there and more of a root cause of what was happening with me. And that was the most important part. So since that first appointment with Dr. Kraft, I have been back a couple times. And since I actually saw Dr. Kraft, I think one more time, if that, I may have only seen her that one time because she actually moved down to Tampa, Florida and started her own practice down there. And so another doctor took over her office. Her name is Dr. Kylie Moss. And I saw her one time. So I have to establish, a relationship with her as well. But the reason why I kind of left my journey there, it is expensive. I know I mentioned before seeing Dr. Treen, the specialists don't really take, insurance up front. So my initial visit with Dr. Kraft was it was like $1,650. So it is not something that a lot of people right now can just swing on a whim. It's definitely something you probably have to save up for. And although these doctors, they're doing God's work and deserve to be generously compensated for their knowledge and their dedication to our health, it is still unfortunate for the average American to access that level of care due to financial restrictions. So I've still been in contact with the office, just kind of updating my results on the estrogen and testosterone gel and just on the microgen results. I've actually gotten a handful of those tests in between my first visit with the CVVD, which I think was in 2022 and until now. So just to kind of monitor what was going on with my microbiome. Sometimes it comes back good, sometimes it's not. Why? I really couldn't tell you, but we're still working on that. Also, I do think the hormone gel really did help improve my lubrication. I think my pain is definitely in a different place than it was when I first was going through everything. I definitely am less irritated. Overall, my pain now is like a little bit more cyclical with my cycle. I think like right after my period, it is the absolute worst. But like right before my period, I'm feeling pretty okay. So it really just depends. And then I feel like times that I have flares that I just really don't know why or can't identify the trigger of. To summarize everything, I am still on my healing journey. I still experience pain and I still have unanswered questions. Going forward, I want to get back into being more intentional and more focused on my healing journey. And with that, I just want to document everything to show everyone what it's like for somebody to be going through this. And I want to have the hard conversations that nobody wants to have. And I want to say the things that need to be said out loud. So that way, people who are watching this feel supported in ways that I wish that I was. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching. If this video just helped even one person feel less alone or like they could be related to, then I have accomplished my goal. But I definitely want to continue this and keep the conversation going. So if you're looking forward to that, I will see you in the next one. Bye.